Coming up, I'm going to show you how to like your job when you don't love it. And then it's October, which means the Striketober trend is back and bigger than ever. We'll break it down next. Let's go. You may not love your job, but you can learn to like it. And this is important because when we hear people say, I don't love my job, and they begin to gripe and complain, then what happens is they lose sight of the fact that there are many times in life where you can't love your job, you won't love your job, but it shouldn't hold your progress back at all. So we're going to talk about that. How to like your job when you don't love it. Now, here's what I have found in coaching a lot of people. There are two situations, two scenarios, if you will, as to why people don't love their job. And as a result, they're struggling to like it. All right. The first is they're in a job that is simply just that. It is a job that they have to do. They are paying their dues. And by the way, this is good. This is good. This is reality. This is part of the process to working on purpose. You're doing the job because you have to. It is, in other words, checking a box. It is a rung on the ladder that you have to stand on. So they're working a specific job so that they can get the job they really want. And this means, to use an analogy, they're on the right bus, but they're not in the right seat yet. And here's what makes this hard. You know you have to pay your dues, but it's really hard. Sometimes the scenario is maybe not even a healthy situation by the very nature of it's grunt work. It's, I think of television world, if you want to be a production assistant, or, I think of the political world, two areas that I've been in. Those lower rungs, it's really, really difficult, and the environment's not great. But you signed up for it, and now you're in the middle of it, and you go, I know that I have to do this. I have to stick it out. But my goodness, nobody told me how awful it was. Or is. And that's true. And so what happens is we get really down because we start focusing on the environment of the now to the point that we forget that this is temporary and it will get better, and the environment of the next is what we're all here for. Second situation that I see is people are in a job just to pay the bills. They're not paying their dues. They're just there to pay the bills. Now, this is even worse, because if you're in a tough job, an awful job, and you're only there to pay the bills, there's no image, there's no vision of the next. You're not on the ladder. So these people are on the wrong bus. And you know it. You're going, I'm on the wrong bus. Could you imagine being at a bus stop and you get on the wrong bus and you don't realize you're on the wrong bus until you've pulled way away, and now you're going, I'm completely going the wrong direction, and I have to stay on this bus until it stops. You imagine how frustrating that is? And that's what a lot of people are dealing with. So this job can get you at least closer to another bus, right? It'll at least get you to the next bus stop, at which point you get off. And so the ladder you want to climb is over here, over there. And so now you realize, okay, I'm not on the right bus, but I do have the opportunity. So here's some good news. Both of these situations, either I'm in a job that I don't love because I'm paying my dues so that I can get to the next, or I'm in a job just to pay my bills. Here's the good news. You can change. You can change. This is a temporary situation, and you can get out of it. But now here's the bad news. You're going to have to take some very intentional steps, and you will also have to be patient. It's very hard for us humans to say, all right, I know my current situation isn't good, and I know I've got to change. And then you got to go, ugh. And part of changing is getting yourself unstuck, right? Moving forward, but knowing it's going to take time. I'll give you a story to illustrate this. Years ago, I was probably 17, and I lived in the Virginia Beach area, and I had this Isuzu Trooper, and my dad said, this is a four-wheel drive. You can take it on the beach, but it's really important that you let enough air out of the tires, or when you get on the beach, when you get into that soft sand, the car will sink. Well, I said, okay, Dad, I got you. And I let a little bit of air out, but I was in such a hurry to just get out on the sand like a stupid 17-year-old who's immature. I didn't let enough air out. Guess what happened? Exactly what my dad said was going to happen happened, and the car essentially sunk into the sand. And in my attempt to get through it, I dug deeper. So in that moment, I now realize my dad was right. I realized I'm stuck. Hello. And I realized, okay, I'm going to have to do two things. Number one, we're going to have to find some instrument to where I can let enough air out of the tires that will allow me to float on the sand. But that's the first step. The second thing is me and my friends had to get down, and we had to, with our hands, scoop the ditches that my tires had dug. And so we had to dig out all the sand after we let the air out of the tires. At that point, I was able to then move forward. So this is the same idea. And it's hard for us to go, oh, I'm stuck. I know I need to get unstuck. I know what I need to do. But then you got to get down and do the hard work. And it's hard to be patient while moving forward. It's hard in the hot sand to go, I got to dig all the sand out. I got to walk, who knows, a mile. I think we walked over a mile to get somebody, and we had an air gauge, and we could let the air out because we didn't have a little instrument. We didn't have anything. All right, so that's the idea. So here's the solution. You can learn to like the job, though, which will give you the patience to persevere. Because learning to like a job you don't love is all about mindset. Okay, so here's two ways that you can learn to like a job that you don't love. First is gratitude. You have to genuinely get to a place where you appreciate this job you do not love. You got no juice, no excitement for it, but you appreciate it because of the income and the stability that comes with that income. Hey, I can take care of myself. It gives me stability. Essentially, it is a platform that will allow me to step to something else. So in this case, you got to be really intentional to look for the positives. All right. Beyond the paycheck, do you like some of the people you work with? You like just one person? Have you kind of been isolated? Go find somebody you like. Become a friend, and they'll be your friend. Find something like that in this interim season to where beyond the paycheck and appreciation, you find some positives. Are there any tasks that you enjoy doing? Is there a benefit or a perk that also makes you really grateful beyond the paycheck? That's what I'm talking about. You've got to create that focus on those positives, and it will keep you going until you can leave. Second, perspective. This is important, especially for the people who are paying the dues. This is not a paycheck job alone. It's also paying dues. And you got to have this mindset that I'm doing what I have to do so that later I can do what I want to do. This is not forever. And you need to get to a place where you encourage yourself. You go, okay, because I'm in this position now, I am getting the experience that I need to be able to do the thing in the next season. Because of this gig right now, I am getting the qualifications, the connections, to where when I sign up for something in the next, I got it. I checked the box. I'm checking the box. And by checking the box, I now can use all those boxes to step on to move to the next. It's about perspective. And this is, again, listen, if you're in a job just for a paycheck and it's not a stepping stone, well, then I've already told you what to do. We're just going to be grateful and we start looking. But if you're in that season of paying your dues and you have to stay there to get to the next, this is huge. Gratitude, yes, for the paycheck and the platform, and perspective that this is temporary. You got this. I promise you. You can like a job that you don't love. And when you learn to do that, your perseverance is going to set you up for big victories. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show, helping you win in your work life so that you can win in the rest of your life. If you're enjoying the program, if it's helping you, would you like the videos that you're watching on YouTube? Subscribe to our channel and share. And then if you're listening via your favorite podcast app, give us a follow, a 5-star review, and share as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so in my desire to keep you fine folks educated, informed, on trends in the workplace that can affect your pocketbook and your path to purpose. Here we go. Kind of an interesting story here. You know, October for me is always a fun month. You know, I think of October. If I'm in the mid of summer, you know, like July, August, Alex, I think of October and I go, man, that's when I wear my sweaters. Get to wear the hoodies. A lot of football. Chili. When I was a kid, Halloween, yeah, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out October has got a little bit of a interesting history in the world of work. I didn't know this until recently. It has earned the term Striketober. Striketober. In October of 2021, we saw a flurry of strikes by union workers across the industries here in the United States, multiple industries. But October of 2023, and folks, I mean, we're still in it. Activity's even higher. Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations tracker has reported that so far this year, there have been 304 strikes in 499 locations in the U.S. Now, again, this is in multiple industries. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. We've seen it in industries like hospitality. I guess that's what you would call Starbucks. Starbucks attempting to unionize last year. We've seen that and continuing. I just saw today that Walgreens is dealing with it now. Their pharmacists striking, causing all kinds of problems. I tell you what, Alex, you know, right now we're in the midst of a rolling United Auto Workers strike, right? It's not completely across the board, but it's being threatened. Like, you slow down production of cars, the general public doesn't care. But if your pharmacist walks out, you can't get your meds, whoa, wait for the pitchforks to come out. They'll be storming the castle. We Americans are some medicated people. Not trying to make light of this in any way. I'm actually saying if you want to see some mass social chaos and disruption, let all the pharmacists walk out and go, we're not making any drugs today. Yikes. The largest strike of healthcare workers in the history of the United States occurred just last week, with 75,000 union Kaiser Permanente employees taking to the picket lines in a 3-day strike that impacted hospitals across several states. Again, listen, we've already got nurses, a shortage of nurses. They're overworked. I don't know if any of you guys have taken your families or you had to go to a walk-in clinic recently. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The wait. And so I had to take my son. I said, hey, this seems like, you know, we do an appointment, and then the appointment was a guess. It was like over an hour wait. Felt like an ER. And the lady behind the desk, she laughed. She said, you know, because I was curious. Like, I got my Ken Coleman hat on. I wasn't even my son's dad. I was like, is this a shortage? I said, is this a shortage? She goes, yeah. We can't get nurses in. We can't get nurses in. Wait times, everything else backs up. Can't get physician's assistants, can't get doctors in. And yet this is an industry, this 24/7 health clinic thing. So again, these workers know this. They realize they've got leverage. Now, I don't think it's a long-term fix. I've said that. I think that unionizing ends up hurting everyone, including the union members, because it creates an us versus them mentality. Everything's a negotiation. They largely don't have a true voice. It's like they elect a leader, and then the leader comes up with all these things. I mean, you got a lot of auto workers right now that are in the midst of a fight between the head of the United Auto Workers Union and the big three car companies over some very audacious demands. The word audacious, by the way, used by the head of the United Auto Workers, going, look, we're going to be audacious. Well, why? Because he told everybody that he was going to be audacious when he got elected. So now he's got to do it. Well, so you hand over somebody your vote, and then they go, we're going to be audacious. Guess what? After you voted for him, you got no say. That's the idea here. You got to understand that. You pass over your right to communicate with a leader. The very leverage you have as an individual is gone. You've given all leverage over to somebody else who, by the way, has a big agenda. Part of their agenda is getting reelected. So now it's like, I'm with the mob. Keeping it real, folks. Somebody has to say it. The other thing that happens is when you have these blocks of unions demanding higher wages, and it's not a true supply-demand capitalistic way of going, look, this is what the market says that we can charge for a car or for whatever. Watch what happens, because some of you don't understand this, and even now you're starting to get upset at me, but let me just explain something. A healthy economy, capitalism is by the way, the greatest form of an economy, because if left alone, I'll explain this in a minute, the left alone part. If left alone, we the people, the market, we are the market, and it sets what's going on. But then you put in government intrusion, regulations, entitlements, mandated that companies then have to spend money on, or you put in union negotiations and the unions go, everybody's going to now make this, and it doesn't support the market, meaning the market's that's not where it is. It's an artificial price increase. That price increase gets passed on to you, the customer. You want to know why we're in a stubborn inflation? Folks, I'm going to tell you, there's two of the culprits right there. Government regulation and intervention and unions. Listen, UPS just settled, and the cost of you ordering something now, it's going to go up. Because if companies have to pay UPS more to ship it, because UPS has got to pay their workers, you go, well, that's what everybody deserves. Well, again, everybody deserves an opportunity to earn what they can earn. But the what they can earn part has to have some market fundamentals involved for a healthy, sustained economy. And if not, if everybody's like, I want this, I need this, I deserve this, so we make decisions on want, need, and deserve, that's not going to end up well. Because the want, need, and deserve, folks, is driving up credit card debt to crazy levels, to personal debt, people buying homes they cannot afford. Want, need, deserve means kids get fat and unhealthy. If you just let a kid eat what they want, need, deserve, what is going to happen? They're going to be overweight diabetics. Just the facts. Want, need, deserve isn't a good recipe for a healthy economy. But we're driven right now by want, need, deserve. And so when companies can't get workers because of these demands, they have to pay them. And the crowd that loves the want, need, deserve line says, yeah. All the while you're cheering on this supposed win for the worker, and you're paying for it. You're paying for it. Everybody needs and deserves a college education. Okay, let's do a student loan program that you pay for. when they default? You, the taxpayer. So, Striketober. I'm telling you, folks, this is growing and growing and growing. It's leading to a socialism and universal income talking point that is going to be supported by all this. Wake up. Be aware. I'm telling you, it's coming, and it's coming quicker than you realize. And you have a say. You have a voice and you have a vote. Use it. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Time for a coaching session. Let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Jessica joins us. Jessica, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's going on?
So I'm in a conundrum here.
Uh-oh.
I was a healthcare worker for about 10 years and got burnt out in 2018. I was a nursing home administrator. Left the industry for about a year and got back in at the end of 2019. And we know what happened in 2020. I made it for about another year during COVID, and then I left again because it was just way too stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So my conundrum is that for the past 3 years, I've been in and out of jobs. I don't stay maybe a year, maybe less, but I find myself really bored, and I find myself always thinking about going back to healthcare. So that's where I'm at. I need some advice. I, at a weak moment, sent my resume back in. I have an interview on Monday, and I'm constantly weighing the pros and cons.
Same kind of role.
Yeah. So I'd love to
I'm
hear
so
your
glad
advice
you called.
on that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you called. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my bumper sticker advice, and then we're going to talk through it, and I want you to ask questions, okay?
Okay.
Here's my bumper sticker advice. Don't go back to the thing that keeps burning you out.
Mm.
Now, that's the bumper sticker. So now we go, all right, what should we be going to? But you're in this yo-yo situation where you get burned out, then you get bored, then you jump back in, and you get burned out again. And it's just because you're afraid to try something else. And you're a doer. You love to make things happen. And you're sitting on the sidelines right now going, I'm losing my mind if I don't go do something productive. And then you go, but the only thing I know is nursing home administrator, and I know it's going to be a 5-alarm fire, and I'm going to get burned, but good gosh, it's better than being bored. That's what I think is going on. Is it true or false?
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay, so I'm your friend. I'm like, Jessica, what are we doing here? Let's figure out what you're good at, what you love, and results that matter to you, and let's get real clear on that. I don't think that's going to be difficult. And then we go, we need a new location. I think that there's a lot of the administrator role, the leadership, supervisor, probably operational type person. That's the right work. I just think it's in the wrong place. True or false?
Yeah, I think that could be true.
I mean, here's where I'm going. Before we get into the talent, passion, mission, I want to run through that. But is it the environment of that world that is just so out of whack that takes the joy out of the stuff that you enjoy doing?
Well, it's like you were just talking about, there's a shortage of nurses. People just don't want to work in nursing home as much, because there's a lot of stereotypes. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of, like you said, 5-alarm fires, but I kind of thrive in that environment. I'm good at doing that, but it just burns me out. Well,
okay, let's break that down. What are you good at doing? Take me into that. Take me into you're good. Is it good at managing complexity? Is it good under fire? What is it?
I think a little bit of all of that. I'm good with people. I'm good at process. I'm good at allowing people to go through process and leading them through that. I left because it's hard for me to leave that alone when I go home. And so, like you said, I'm obsessive about it.
Where does that come from?
I just probably control and fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you have a lot of that growing up?
Yeah, not because of anything my parents did. It was just kind of inherent in my nature, I think.
Mm-hmm. So here's what we have to do. We have to find an environment where it's all about process and people, okay? And I love the combo here. That's just a beautiful leadership combination where you inherently see when processes are broken or not efficient, and you realize that there's a people quotient to that, and people can figure it out if I get the right people there. So there's the process side of you, but then you love nurturing and leading and guiding people and helping, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think you have got to put yourself in a situation where there's less crisis, a whole lot less, and you go into a place that is more aligned. Well, let me say this differently. I'm literally real time in this. I think that you need to be in a critical thinking role, not a crisis solving role.
Yeah.
Is that, I was trying to grab that a minute ago, because I think that plays to the process side of you and the people quotient that you love to have. But I just think that you're not healthy enough. I think you could. Let me say this, Jessica. I'm not going to say you should, but I think you could down the road get back into an environment like that, but only after you got healthy. Because I think something happens to you, and please don't take this as criticism, because this is not.
Sure.
But I think what happens to you is you get in crisis mode, and it turns you into superhero mode, and you're not a superhero. You want to be. And I think you fake a lot of people out, but I think it has the potential to crush you.
Yeah.
So I want you in a place where there's very little crisis. In other words, if you're in a leadership role where some level of crisis comes up, but you look at it and compared to the crisis you've been dealing with your whole career, you go, everybody comes in your office going, "Oh, Jessica, this happened." You go, first of all, breathe. This is nothing. Go get yourself a bottle of water and a bag of chips and meet me back here in 5 minutes. I got you. It almost needs to be like that, to where it's not a crisis compared. Like, there is real crisis work, and then there is leadership work that has its version of a crisis. And I think you need to be in a role where critical thinking and people leading are the two combos. And you're just there going, "Hey, I'm looking at this from afar. I've got all this crisis experience, but now I'm going to take all this crisis experience and I'm going to now apply it to a role where I'm critically and strategically thinking." I think I want to mention strategic. See, critical thinking is, here's what's wrong. Strategic thinking is, let's get up above this and figure out who needs to go where to make that happen. I think that's your jam. Am I right? I don't want to put this on you falsely. I don't want to hang
No, I mean, I definitely think that you're right.
And so here's the problem. You have conditioned yourself. And I would also say, I think something in life previously, it doesn't matter, I'm not your therapist, but I think somewhere in there, you've gotten kind of addicted to the dopamine of being Superwoman.
Yeah. Yep.
Until like you save the day, and then you can't turn it off. You go home and you go, "Oh, I should have saved this person. I should have saved this." And I think that's dangerous for you. So what I'm getting at is that you got to create boundaries for the next gig. I think you need to be in leadership, but I think you need to be in an environment that has very little crisis involved. That's I want to stop for a minute because we got a few minutes. I want to know what you think about that, and I want you to almost ideate. What are your thoughts or questions on what I just said?
I mean, the concept sounds really good. I tried to get in that kind of leadership role, in a healthcare situation that's not a 24/7, because that was really kind of my worry and my obsession is that, when I left, everything was still going and felt like it was just out of control. And so I have tried that in the last few years. I haven't landed anything. I got in a director of ops role in higher education, and I stayed there for about almost a year, and it was just, there wasn't enough going on, to be honest.
Okay, good. But that's all helpful. But see, you agree with me, but you doubt that it's possible. That's what I think I'm hearing.
I do. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
Why do you doubt
having
that?
a hard time.
Well, here's the deal. You went from the fires to education, which moves like sludge.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the deal. It's just a function of you going, wait a second, I'm not confined to these two extremes that I've been in. It's somewhere in the middle there. I think you need to be in business. I think you need to be in business where it moves, where the pace is what you crave, because I think that's the healthy part of you. You need a strong pace, a good, quick pace of things coming my way so that I'm doing that, but not crisis.
Right.
And I'm telling you, those jobs are out there. You're not limited to that. Charlotte, North Carolina, come on, that area. I mean, you've got a lot of experience. I think you need to be in operations and leadership and management, and I think it needs to be in the business world where things are moving at a strong pace. There's a lot of things coming your way. You got to lead a team, and we're leading them to something very specific. But I think it needs to be no crisis and no health care for a while. And so I'm going to send you away with this. I think that you can find it, and you got to just stay with it. You got to have the fortitude to get after it, and I believe in you. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.